You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYPC.
WCYTV
Here on the Daily Signal.
Welcome, good evening, to the end of the government shutdown. And believe me, it has been quite a long time coming, and all of the ins and outs of creepy, steepy, gross, noodle, spaghetti bowl legislation has finally borne fruit that I think is really stinking hilarious. Welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast. I'm Tony Kinnett, coming to you live here from the Daily Signal. The House is voting right now, getting ready to head into yet another vote for the evening on the shutdown. They've got some procedural votes they had to get out of the way. Of course, the Senate earlier this week, finally the Democrats flaked away 8 of them, plus an independent here and there, flipped that particular measure over and gave Republicans what they needed to get that bill passed in the Senate. But it was a brand new bill in the Senate. And this brand new bill in the Senate, it included some provisions. And, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. We already know one of the provisions is the reduction in force reversal, i.e. the President of the United States during a shutdown has extra authority to go hacking and slashing different government workers, reducing government workforce.
Somewhat run-of-the-mill.
Right. Democrats wanted that reversed, and they got it. There are some other provisions that perhaps they were not read all the way through. We'll get to in a second. First, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson's announcement that tonight is the night. Get your roses, get the popcorn, boys and girls. We got a game.
Morning. Good morning, everybody. Just wanted to come out and say that we believe the long national nightmare will be over tonight. It was completely and utterly foolish and pointless in the end, as we said all along. I just want to apologize to any Americans who are out there who still have flight cancellations or delays today. I want to apologize to the many American families who were made to go hungry over the last several weeks, our troops and other federal employees who are wondering where their next paycheck would come from. All of that's on the Democrats. Just never forget, they voted 15 times between the House and the Senate to close your government. And the Republicans tried every single day of the shutdown to open it, and we voted 15 times to do that. They have a lot to answer for, and I just want to say that we're very optimistic about the vote tally tonight. We think this is going to happen, and we're sorry that it took this long. So Republicans are going to deliver for the people. We're ready to get back to our legislative agenda. We have a very aggressive calendar for the remainder of this year. There'll be some long days and nights here, some long...
Well, here's where some of that really meets the road. So one of the provisions in the new shutdown aversion bill that came from the Senate is a measure that would allow the senators who were targeted and had their phones tapped, their locations recorded, their private communication searched without notification, which very much so violates federal law. It allows those senators who were targeted under Arctic frost. It allows those senators to sue $500,000 a pop. Now, this prompted a couple of things. First of all, Senator Lindsey Graham waltzing on to Fox and breaking the news that you really should have read this one more closely before you passed it through the Senate. Here is Senator Lindsey Graham earlier today.
Some Republicans are joining Democrats expressing concern. Then Special Counsel Jack Smith, though, ultimately was never able to take then former President Donald Trump to trial as the Supreme Court stepped in. Now, the way this provision is written, it's tucked away on page 217 through 229 of the funding bill. Senators could bring lawsuits and sue the federal government using taxpayer money if federal law enforcement seizes or subpoenas their data without notifying them. The damages could mean each senator could get $500,000 for each violation. Senator Lindsey Graham was one of the senators who later found out that his data got into the hands of Jack Smith's team. Here he is a few weeks ago. Watch.
If they violated my constitutional rights, if they trampled on the separation of powers involving me, I'm going to sue the hell out of these people.
Democrats in the House.
Now, that's funny for a number of reasons, because he didn't just say, you know, I'm gonna get out there and I'm gonna sue the hell out of these people. He didn't just say that. He then, well, I'm assuming that it has something to do with Lindsey Graham. The language is very much like Lindsey Graham's prior bill filings in the Senate. Just saying, I don't have any proof he's the one that included the measure. It doesn't matter. Whichever senator it is that included the measure that allows those in Arctic frost to sue, now it is over to the House. And who is angrier about it more than anyone else? None other than our very own bartender emerita, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the new Yas Queen, of the Democrat Party. She's throwing a fit on the floor of the House. It's fantastic.
The lady from New York is recognized for 1 minute.
It is great. It is great that Democrats have a line of people who are willing to fight for working class Americans from coast to coast in this country.
So she's going to start out school marming. It is great. And she's like looking around that there is the line of people. She's doing like the weird, awkward cheerleader head nod when they know that they don't actually have the support, but yet they're really going to go for it anywho.
Because God forbid that we have a member of the Republican caucus who stands up and actually wants to extend the Affordable Care Act so that people with cancer, insulin, and issues across the...
People with cancer, and then, of course, the very famous disease insulin.
As bad as the Black Plague.
My cousin caught insulin last year, still hasn't recovered. Poor guy. I know. It just hard to digest. To be honest with you.
The pandemic of insulin.
So I know that AOC and her drinkable air, not exactly the best of wordsmiths. But putting that aside, there were Republicans in the House of Representatives who stepped forward to suggest Obamacare subsidies be funded. There's a representative from California, a young man who's put forward something that I detest. There, of course, is Mike Lawler. I know I've mentioned that guy and played that clip of him sending the standalone bill or holding the standalone bill, trying to give it to House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries way back at the beginning of the government shutdown. And Hakeem Jeffries stood there yelling, "Who's your boss?" Like he was on Jerry Springer yelling, "Who's your daddy?" for 10 minutes. It was really awkward. So no.
All sorts of healthcare issues across this country have their health insurance protected and extended throughout 2026. It is unconscionable that what we are debating right now is legislation that will give 8 members of the United States Senate over $1 million apiece.
Now, wait a minute. Hang on here a second. I'm going to, go ahead and, real quick, because I believe that those particular Republican senators only get the money if they win the lawsuits. They're not just given a magical cash.
It isn't even that high of a number, depending on who it is. It's $500,000 per violation.
But there are several violations. She's just kind of rounding it together. So AOC,
there's a whole lot of violations.
Well, yes. What's really weird from AOC here, despite, the everything about her, is that she seems to indicate that she's very well aware that there were violations that the federal government was guilty of in regard to the Arctic frost investigation. Just a little bit of foreshadowing here. But we'll let her finish her little rant because she's very important. She's very just Yas Queen, beat poetry night.
And we are robbing people of their food assistance and of their health care to pay for it. How is this even on the floor? How can we, as members of Congress, Republican or Democrat, vote to enrich ourselves by stealing from the American people?
Now, I happen to remember that it was, in fact, AOC who voted against the continuing resolution, therefore ending SNAP. Now, I don't know if you can, really dig out your trivia skills and guess who it is, in fact, in this video that has gotten paid consistently through the entire shutdown. Producer Nick, can you hazard a guess?
I'm going to make the difficult guess here. There's a few other people in the background that are a bit cut off, but I think I'm going to go with AOC.
That's correct. It is, in fact, AOC. So hypocrisy, not really surprising. AOC is also really upset about the shutdown in general, kind of flip-flopping around, but she's inspiring at the same time.
Strong.
She got out in front of the country today and told us that it's bigger than one person. And I'm proud of her. Here you go, AOC, getting out there, rallying the troops.
Congresswoman, you mentioned her stay as minority leader?
I think what is so important for folks to understand is that this problem is bigger than one person, and it actually is bigger than the minority leader in the Senate. You had 8 Senate Democrats who coordinated their own votes on this, as well as you have 2 retiring members. Many of them are also up in several cycles from now, with the hope that people are going to forget this moment. And I think what's important is that we understand that this is not just a leader is a reflection of the party, and Senate Democrats have selected their leadership to represent them. And so the question needs to be bigger than just one person. We have several Senate primaries this cycle. I know I'm being asked about New York. That is years from now. I have to remind my own
I hope you're hungry, because that is one heck of a word salad.
Well, it's not just one person. It's 8 people. And those 8 people are a cabal of evil individuals who organized this vote to undermine the powers of Chuck Schumer to control the Democrats.
That's very, very, very true. Now, I do want to move on, because we got to get through some of the news as we continue through the House shutdown information. Hakeem Jeffries, who is the actual minority leader of the House at the present time, he's really just in full swing, the boot, scoot, and boogie of situations over here, trying to make the claim that they've won some big, beautiful fight like Braveheart for the American people. It's exciting. I mean, he's not getting disemboweled. His political career is. But here's his Braveheart moment.
And that's why Democrats have been waging this fight. And we'll continue to wage this fight. No matter what comes over to us from the United States Senate to the House of Representatives at some point this week. Our position as House Democrats has been crystal clear.
So crystal clear that, like yesterday, he was saying the exact opposite.
Yeah, I think it's...
Now, Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. They own the mess that has been created in the United States of America. They own it.
It's very powerful, isn't it? I mean, it's just splendiferously powerful. Exciting stuff, in fact. So great stuff from Hakeem Jeffries. Senator Chris Murphy, he's echoing some of the same stuff. He's trying the cruelty routine. Again, the last gasp of the Democrats on the shutdown stuff. Just more power to him, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's charitable to suggest that they don't care about hurting their voters. They actually do seem to care about hurting their voters, in that they are deliberately trying to make the shutdown as painful as possible. These are nihilists, right? That we're dealing with, which makes it hard.
Nihilists. There, master philosopher.
Maybe he heard ex nihilo and was like, "That's how you pronounce it."
The master of Latin himself, Chris Murphy of Connecticut, back at it again. Now, this does end in a particularly funny way with Jasmine Crockett, of all people, but we're going to let her stew for just a couple of seconds, because now we get into the other major catastrophe, scandal, the ultimate moment of shenanigans supreme. Over on the left, this would be the Epstein files timeline today. This has been a wild one from start to finish. And what it began as was like the smoking gun. We've got him. The walls are closing in. It's that,
I believe this is the beginning of the end.
I do too.
It's really the beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end.
He may be feeling the walls closing in on him.
All the walls closing in on him.
The walls closing in on him.
You know, the every time there's something that relatively related to Russia in the first term, it was the walls are closing in. Now, Jeffrey Epstein, the walls are closing in. And that leads us to the House Oversight Democrats this morning. They woke up and decided bad decisions were the move to make. So this morning, the House Oversight Committee Democrats, from their Twitter account, released breaking. Oversight Democrats have received new emails from Jeffrey Epstein's estate that raise serious questions about Donald Trump and his knowledge of Epstein's horrific crimes. Read them for yourself. It's time to end this cover-up and then in all caps, release the files. Ooh. And it was about 3.5 seconds later, I'd say, to be charitable, about 3.5 seconds later, that the media immediately waltzed out and said, here we go. They got him. This is it. Beginning of the end.
John, these are emails that show Jeffrey Epstein mentioning Donald Trump by name multiple times in private correspondence that he had with people, including Ghislaine Maxwell, obviously his longtime associate and accomplice, and also the author Michael Wolff, in a time span of about the last 15 years or so in these emails. Now, these are coming out from the House Oversight Committee. They had issued a bipartisan subpoena to Jeffrey Epstein's estate, John, as you know, earlier this year. And so they've gotten their hands on a trove of documents. And these are emails.
A trove of documents. Ooh. that like a treasure trove. That here it is. It's the treasure. Yar, we found it finally.
That included Jeffrey Epstein on them. They were sent either to him or from him that mentioned Donald Trump before he was in office and also while he was in office during his first term. And
now that's the supposed smoking gun. Jeffrey Epstein has mentioned Donald Trump. He's mentioned him. Here we go. We got him. And also not just emails maybe to him or mentioning him, but emails to other people about him. Ooh, who could they be?
She says as pictures of Trump and Epstein are being played on the screen next to her.
I really do need to download that clip of Phoebe Buffay off of Friends sarcastically yelling, "This is brand new information." So we'll set that aside for a second. I want to go ahead and give them their best shot here, because for about 2 hours, they had this incredible, again, beginning of the end, the smoking gun is here. They had redacted the names of the victims and released 3 whole emails. Michael Wolff, who's written a lot of really weird articles about the Trump presidency. They're making the case over on ABC News that he's worked at numerous publications in his decades-long career in writing and publishing. Essentially, the point that they're making is his allegations that Trump is deeply deep in this stuff is ironclad. Michael Wolff has never had to retract like 8 or 9 articles for likely defamation. We've never actually had the situation, perchance like that before. No, it is really, 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 really silly. And I'm sorry, I really can't frame it any other way for the boys and girls at home. That pinning your entire hopes and dreams, all of them, on Michael Wolff's Goofy Goober article, where he just brings up these 3 emails, and then this is like his reporting and some emails about Michael Wolff and some Jeffrey Epstein stuff. Like, this is the smoking gun. Trump comes out, and again, just setting up the stage here before we get to where things go really wrong for the left. Trump gets out and he posts on Truth Social, "The Democrats are trying to bring up Jeffrey Epstein hoax again because they'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done on the shutdown." Correct. 100% correct from the President of the United States. The timing of this is absolutely suspect. Now, at this point, as I was busy chatting away with the Secretary of the Navy and, hopefully doing things that mattered, this was playing out with the president saying, the timing is a little suspect, don't you think? Because again, the Biden administration had complete ownership of this stuff through the entire term, nothing. Again, everything up to and including Trump's private tax documents were leaked. All of that. But all of a sudden, I'm just making the case that now they finally got the smoking gun. I doubt it. So this is the rough spot. After Trump's Truth Social post, the House Oversight Committee Democrats, who said they had received 23,000 Epstein documents, released only 3 of them. So the committee Republicans then went behind the oversight Democrat back and released all 23,000 documents. All of them. All 23,000 documents.
The full trove?
The full trove. Thank you, Caitlin Collins. According to the New York Times, Democrats were really, really, really unhappy that where the Democrats had released 3 emails with a bunch of retractions and black marker all over them, the House Oversight Committee Republicans waltzed out and said, fine, you want to play that game? Documents. Everywhere, all over. Here you go. Happy to do it. You're welcome. And again, this is a bit of an issue. It's a bit of a problem for the left. Because now they actually have to go through some of those particular documents. And oh boy, wouldn't you know, the victim's name who was obscured in the 3 emails that the Democrats had released is Virginia Giuffre. Virginia Giuffre, you may remember, has on-court records, multiple court records, cleared Trump of any wrongful conduct at all, which not only means participating in any kind of sexual assault, but prior knowledge of sexual assaults going on or trafficking going on and doing nothing. She didn't just say Trump wasn't in the room, Trump didn't touch me. She said Trump had nothing at all to do with any of this.
So you're saying the email that never said Trump touched a woman didn't actually prove that Trump is a, serial rapist, conspirator. And then the woman said he wasn't too.
I'm going to level with you. We will talk about those in a second. But first, I'm going to give our good friends in the Democrat House of Representatives, I'm going to give them a shovel because they need to dig themselves a hole. I will remind you again, the House Oversight Committee Democrats had the emails. They had them in their hands and chose to scratch out Virginia Giuffre's name and release 3 emails out of 23,000. Suspicious indeed, I would say. But that didn't stop the brand new, just sworn in today, representative from Arizona, Democrat Adelita Grijalva, in her very first special I'm a big kid now House speech, claiming that the Epstein documents and all of this is like prime priority. This is what we got to do. Please don't look at the shutdown behind the curtain. Here's brand new Democrat Grijalva from Arizona.
Have experienced violence and exploitation, including Liz Stein and Jessica Michaels, both survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse. They are here in the gallery with us this evening. Thank you for being here.
You hear the hooting and the hollering from the Democrats in the House, none of whom invited the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. I'm going to be clear here. I have to legally say alleged, not because I don't believe they're victims, but that's the legal standard. No one on that side of the aisle invited the alleged victims of the Jeffrey Epstein abuse and trafficking charges during the entirety of the last 4 years. But all of a sudden, brand new Arizona Democrat gets up and says, I brought him here with me. I brought him in carry-on, their checked luggage, and it's hooting and hollering time.
Just this morning, House Democrats released more emails showing that Trump knew more about Epstein's abuses than he previously acknowledged.
Do you see how she struggled with that? Because she is very well aware that she is full of it. She is full of it. That's not what the emails prove. The emails are like blasé references to they're not even from President Trump. It's like, hey, Epstein, just reaching out to say, are you having fun stooping the victim? No, that's not the case. From Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell, Saturday, April 2nd of 2011. I want you to realize that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. And then victim, omitted because that's what the Democrats in the Oversight Committee shared, spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. Now, alone, no, that kind of damning, kind of a rough situation, producer Nick.
You know what I call my co-conspirators in my grand cabal?
Let me hear it.
Dogs.
My dogs, my homies. Maybe they're like Gavin Newsom that grew up rough on the streets making 5-layer PB&Js. Yeah, word up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm down with that. So when you actually remove the name victim and it ends up, as the Republicans later showed, it's Virginia, and Virginia says, no, Trump didn't do anything wrong. All of a sudden, Trump spent hours alone with Virginia. Wait a minute here. She says he didn't do anything wrong.
He's just a stand-up guy. Whoops.
Again, if you set aside already the insanity that none of this leaked during the Biden administration, who was sending the FBI to raid Melania's underwear drawer, what, you think they wouldn't have leaked this? So Grijalva gets up. She has an emotional moment near the end. Her little I'm Spartacus kind of a moment. Look out, Cory Booker.
Justice cannot wait another day. Adelante, mi gente. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
Yo quiero Taco Bell. Muchas gracias. Esta mañana. Okay, great. Fantastic. Love it. Amazing. Sit down.
She was probably actually emotional because she read at the bottom of the script. And now you have lost your job the day that you got it. Bye, friend.
Actually, I was hoping you were going to go with, at the bottom it says in parentheses, be emotional. Just following the script.
Please clap.
Yeah, please clap. Little Jeb Bush energy there. So then you have Robert Garcia, Democrat of California. He gets on TV and he's just asking questions. He's just curiously back in the background here.
And I think the question is why? Like, what is Donald Trump trying to hide? Why is he directing what clearly is a cover-up? Why don't they want the Epstein files released? I think those are all the questions that people should be asking.
I will remind you that, and we found this out today, we've confirmed this, the House Oversight Committee, which includes, and I'm just going to pull up, the entire membership of the House Oversight Committee here, just for me. I want to make sure that I have the full list correct. The House Oversight Committee includes Democrats that have been very, very, very open and critical about Donald Trump. Completely. Like they have been very, very openly critical of Donald Trump. They've called him an evil man. They've said he's the worst person in history, all of this stuff. One of those people is Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett. Sorry, I'm making sure I had this right. Jasmine Crockett is on the House Oversight Committee for the Democrats. If someone who has read through all of the documents, unredacted, in the Epstein files, has evidence, let's say, that Donald Trump is a pedophile, then when they went on CNN later today, and there was a bit of pushback because Jasmine started saying crazy crap, she wouldn't back down from it. Here, this is earlier from today. Jasmine Crockett face planting on CNN.
This is an email from April 2nd, 2011. Republicans are saying that victim is Virginia Giuffre. As you know, she died by suicide. She's been very outspoken victim of Jeffrey Epstein. Here's the email right here on your screen. She wrote a book, as you know, and she did not accuse him of any wrongdoing. What do you make of that? And can you confirm that?
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, it's redacted who the victim is. So.
No, you have unredacted access. It's not redacted in the emails. You're a member of the Oversight Committee. You are literally one of the people in the United States with open, unfettered, doors open access to everything. That is the purpose of the Oversight Committee. It's redacted. I don't know who that is. Girl, you censored the email. Ma'am, you're still holding the Sharpie, you illiterate bag.
I won't necessarily take the Republicans' word on who it is that's redacted. And I don't know why they would necessarily redact someone's name who is deceased at this point.
What? Again, the House Democrats released the redacted emails. Republicans then, because listening to Jasmine Crockett gooberty-goob up a storm over on CNN, said, okay, well, I'll fix her. And you have Tim Burchett who said, hey, you know what would be really funny? Release all 23,000 pages just now. Just like do it. Release them all. Leak them. Open the faucet. And then we found out unredacted. It's Virginia. It's Virginia Giuffre. It's who it's always been. That's who's been at the forefront, at the crux, at the center of this particular investigation.
Democrats did that, though. The Democrats redacted.
No. I understand. Okay, but I'm just saying, like, our biggest concern is to actually make sure that we are protecting victims. And obviously, she wrote a book. She told her truth.
Slit my wrists. The stupidity of Jasmine Crockett never ceases to amaze me. By the way, it should be noted, this is not the only Jasmine moment of the day. This is the lady that apparently Charlemagne the God, the leftist radio host, thinks should be the new leader of the Democrat Party. Apparently,
obviously,
the lady who's going to be the next super ultra Texas senator. You know, she's going to do what Colin Allred and what Beto O'Rourke never did, which is run a really weird campaign that is awkwardly popular with all of the losers and then gets spanked by the Zodiac Killer or John Cornyn.
Maybe she'll spend some money on something real fancy.
Yeah. Yes. Jasmine Crockett's also. We'll talk about her financial problems here in just a little bit. Here's Jasmine, though, earlier going after gender-affirming care and MAGA women. Real Jasmine moment here for you.
Okay, a lot of the MAGA women receive gender-affirming care, such as lip fillers, breast augmentation, etc. Why do you think they are so against gender-affirming care for trans people?
Oh, I didn't see that she's standing next to Flygore the flamingo.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that to you.
Sweet goodness. That...
I know you want to say it.
Okay, so I have this thing where, like, you know a MAGA woman when you see one.
1000%.
They all have a look,
Big
right?
Mac, but
You don't want to play this game.
But they, like, they lips be up to, anyway, that's
Their lips, they lips be up to, if she's suggesting like a Botoxed smile or something like that, I would like to remind you, we have clips of Jennifer Welch right now, and Nicole Wallace and every other blonde, middle-aged, angry, bitter woman on the left. I'm afraid, we'll get to this in a second. Sorry, she's gender-affirming care is not like minor plastic surgery or like trying to hide aging as you get older.
I saw someone compare it to knee surgery today.
Gender-affirming
it's just
knee
the same
surgery?
as having a knee replacement.
Man, I've got concern. How are you going through puberty in your knees? I've got additional concern. I'm going to need to see a doctor and then take a shower in that order.
a whole other issue. But yeah, they don't even know, because when that was brought up on the House floor, because there was a discussion about this on the House floor, they were like, how dare you say we use, and it's like, no, that's exactly what y'all do. Y'all just didn't realize that that's what it is. But
Okay, I have a rule. I've received emails about this. We have gotten emails that say, Tony, you're a really nice, you're a Christian guy. You know, you claim to be this, Baptist Bible thumping Christian, but sometimes you're really mean. And sometimes you're really mean about people's appearances. What's your system for this? Here's my rule. If you get out into the political games and you take it upon yourself to say particularly nasty things about the appearance of another person, you are fair game. You are fair game. And I would just like to make this explicitly clear based on those guidelines. If you are going to mock a lady for getting Botox, you're going to mock a lady or for, getting some facial work done to make things sit a little bit higher, I would like to perhaps offer the advice that if your bra line sits at your hips, maybe you should shut your mouth. Go ahead, producer Nick.
If your body shape is the same as the 6'9" offensive lineman in drag you're standing next to, maybe reconsider your code switching, making fun of, and generalizing a group of people based on their looks.
And by the way, does that mean that I'm fair game, for also, criticisms?
Yeah, you JD Vance lookalike.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Feel free to leave your criticisms of my every single white conservative commentator in his 30s roasts in the comments. And don't forget my snaggletooth, by all means. Back to the important news. So the House going through this particular Epstein investigation at the same time, there's a bit of drama also around apparently Representative Tim Burchett of Tennessee, who I believe is going to be joining us next week on the show if all things go correctly. Also making some claims about some blocking and releasing of documents today. Here's Tim Burchett.
Hey everybody, Tim Burchett. Just left the House floor, and I tried to do a UC, unanimous consent of tried to get the Epstein files, get it straight to the floor, just to cut out all this nonsense. And, and the Democrats blocked it, oddly enough. Now here they've had it for 4 years, and they, obviously if there's something there about Trump, they would have released it. And now they're all, let's get it out. Well, I just made a motion to bring it straight to the dadgum floor, and they blocked it. So this is politics. It has nothing to do with what's doing what's right. I mean, it's Washington, D.C. to a T. And again, they ought to be ashamed of themselves, but they're probably not. Thank you.
Okay, so there's a little bit of question as to like kind of the procedural issues on certain votes as to whether or not things can be released immediately or whether or not we have to wait. We will ask Tim Burchett about this next week. There are additional emails, though, that are very problematic. This is the issue the left has played. I will remind you my favorite quote to use on the show. Back when Mitch McConnell was savage and cool, back in the day, back in the Obama days, when Mitch McConnell was not afraid to get out the K-bar and gut someone's spleen, Harry Reid, then Senate Majority Leader, he got out and he said, you know what, we're going to move the confirmation process to go nuclear. 51 votes will confirm it. And thus came one of my favorite quotes from Cocaine Mitch at the time himself.
Say to my friends on the other side of the aisle, you'll regret this, and you may regret it a lot sooner than you think.
And we have now come to that on the Epstein file stuff. So Democrats have pushed and pushed and pushed for everything to be released. And so now everything just thrown out, again, 23,000 additional documents. We have some new info. For example, additional emails released today by the House Oversight Committee suggest that in as late as 2018, Jeffrey Epstein claimed he was advising members of the Russian government, specifically via Russian ambassador Vitaly Churkin until his death in 2017, on how to handle and understand then President Donald Trump. In one email dated June 24th, 2018, Epstein can be seen attempting to schedule a face-to-face meeting with Putin and his foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, regarding Trump about a month before Trump and Putin summit in Helsinki. Now, that doesn't sound very ally of Donald Trump to me. That doesn't sound very co-conspirator to me. It sounds like he was attempting to, again, act as a foreign agent to Russia against the United States and do so against Donald Trump. Now, that doesn't fit the narrative very well at all. That's a puzzle piece that just doesn't seem to work. It gets better, according to some of these leaked emails as well. In September of 2017, an email from, at the time, New York Times journalist Landon Thomas tipped Jeffrey Epstein off about a follow-up investigation by a journalist and former New York Police Department detective, John Connolly. From Thomas Landon to Jeffrey Epstein, quote, "He is digging around again, not clear if it's another book or expanded paperback version, was asking me all sorts of questions about why you hired Ken Starr. I told him I had no idea. I think he is doing some Trump-related digging too. Anyway, for what it's worth." So the New York Times was tipping off Jeffrey Epstein when he was going to be investigated. That media, that bulwark of the press against power and ultimate accountability. Just going to level with you guys, that's a little suspicious.
Why would they do that? They're updating their article about Epstein files every 4 minutes.
Yes, now they are actually updating. According to the archival software, they are, in fact, updating every little bit of the article. It's updating like every couple of minutes.
Just tied my shoe.
Just
took a breath.
Fixing a few things, maybe adjusting the ads. Mm-hmm. Suspicious stuff. It doesn't end there for New York Times. So Fox News host Greg Gutfeld, the only late night host that people watch, he went on the New York Times, quote, The Interview. That's the name of the show, with David Marchese. David Chucky Marchese, about how, this is how the New York Times describes it, how his, quote, insult-heavy, relentlessly pro-conservative show has become so dominant, and what he thinks about late-night hosts like Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel. Here is that earlier today. You got to take a look at this. Or not earlier today, excuse me, yesterday.
The biggest story in late night this year, or biggest stories, I should say, which are the impending cancellation of Colbert and Kimmel's suspension.
Yeah.
Do you remember what your immediate reaction to the news of both was?
I guess, why did it take so long? Because, I'd crushed them like bugs, David. I'd crushed them and I'd thrown them into the wind, and they were still here. I call it entertainment welfare. The only reason why they were around for so long, despite the fact that their numbers were dropping, was the fact that they kind of towed the line. So I guess when I heard that they were gone, it really didn't surprise me because the numbers were saying it. I don't think it was political. I didn't know anybody, and I'm counting by many liberal friends who watched them. And I think it's because it wasn't entertainment anymore. It was more like a therapy session for people that were upset at the world.
True. It does get a little snippy a little bit later into the interview, and you can see the squirming of David Marchese. Really good stuff here from Gutfeld.
They write letters, but they're so polite. No, the ones I get, I'm telling you, man, the ones I get, it's like, Greg, we always respect your opinions, but I must ask you, please refrain from using the Lord's name in vain. And then they will try to, Penn Jillette said to me, like he's an atheist. He's like,
someone who works at Planned Parenthood might have a different opinion about how polite the religious
well, I mean, they are killing children,
but...
so that's part of the game. In your face.
I love it. I love it. The New York Times trying to police particular bits of language and saying, well, don't you think you're being a little too mean to Planned Parenthood? And Greg's like, well, they are, committing an actual genocide. They are murdering children, particularly. So really, really, really great stuff. I believe we have George Caldwell over on the line. Producer Nick, if he can't necessarily hear him, or hear us, I should say, we're working on some of the connection issues. If he could give us a bit of an update on what's going on Capitol Hill, that would be stellar.
Good.
George, good evening. I'm understanding that you may not be able to hear us, but if you can, Producer Nick, can you shoot him a message and have him tell us what's going on at Capitol Hill? I know, again, the connection issues are a bit sticky, but if he can give us a bit of a detail there, that'd be pretty stellar.
So, Tony, I'm currently in the Capitol. The House has not been in session since September 19th. So, there's a lot of excitement for them to be back. They've been working in their district, and they're sort of going to be looking at a different package this time.
Gotcha.
It's a CR, so continuing spending levels flat, paired with 3 funding bills, 3 appropriations bills. And also in the Senate, the Republicans have promised the Democrats a vote on extending ACA premium tax credits. And so it's sort of an awkward messaging situation for House Democrats because, Senate Democrats cut a deal. It's been sort of tricky for them to figure out who to put the blame on this for, but Republicans are really, when I speak to them, they're really hammering the Democrats and they're accusing them of having kept the government shut down for nothing. But it seems that a lot of people have a lot of hope at this moment because with this package, once it passes, you will have 3 of the standard appropriations bills passed, and so that's a little bit of progress towards long-term funding.
Gotcha. All right, so just
if you're able to hear us, we were hoping to see if you had any news on a final vote.
Yeah, question from producer Nick. George, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, magic, miracles, excitement. Tell us, do you actually know at this point if we can expect a final vote in the next hour or so? Are we stuck in procedural votes? What's going on? How long is it going to take for us to get into final vote territory?
So the last I checked, I believe the Democrat whip notice showed the vote scheduled for around 7:45 to 8:15. Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, is entitled to what's called the magic minute, where he can talk as long as he wants. Last time he did that, I believe he broke the record with around 10 hours on the House floor before a big, beautiful bill passage. But I think that would be very bad optics to prolong the shutdown for 10 more hours this time.
I think you're pretty much on point there. The last question that I have, at least for some of us, I don't really want to tempt fate on having all of our audio remain active here. With Hakeem's magic minute moment, we're going to leave that one over to the censors. Just kind of giving everyone the business. Do you see it persuading any Republicans to go Democrat? And then also along that line, I know Jared Golden from Maine, the Democrat who often ends up voting alongside Republicans here. Do we see any Democrats that are likely to vote to open the government and kind of side with Republicans on this? What are you hearing kind of among the different caucuses and regions of the country for both parties?
So I really don't think that there's any likelihood whatsoever that a Republican flips on this. There doesn't seem to be any political benefit from that. With Democrats, there certainly could be people who cross party lines. I think you can expect Jared Golden to vote for this. Also, Don Davis put out a cryptic post when he was flying into D.C. Don Davis is a Democrat from North Carolina, in which he said, "I'm coming to D.C. for a bill to reopen the government." It was something like that. You could also see people like Mary Glusenkamp Perez from Washington State cross party lines, possibly Tom Suozzi, but all of that is totally unclear. But this should pass.
Gotcha. George, thanks for sticking with us. George Caldwell, appreciate all of the excellent work that you do. Sorry that it's taken a little bit of extra time to get you hooked up with us. We're still working on getting some of this particular stuff fixed. Keep us updated if there's anything else we might go back to, if there's any breaking, exciting things, but we really do appreciate it, man. Thanks again.
Thank you, Tony.
All right. I want to move over to something that is not getting any coverage whatsoever, and that is a member of the administration. And this really isn't that, I wouldn't say super unique, but it's unique in that it just doesn't happen in American politics, especially not to the degree that it happened today. I was in Fort Wayne, Indiana for a national defense summit. So what a lot of people don't know, why, talk about a local state issue on national news. Indiana is one of the top producers of military equipment in the country. I mean, Indiana produces the Humvee, produced it for 40 years. I mean, Indiana is in fact where the great, beautiful infantry fighting vehicle, or as is colloquially called among younger millennials, Honey Badger. We produce that. That's an Indiana thing. There's a lot of research, of course. Indiana has the third largest naval research facility in the world. Yes, despite us being a really landlocked country. And no, it's not, or state. No, it's not on Lake Michigan, by the way. So sorry, I caught producer Nick's little question there before.
I had a joke prepped and he shot it down.
So the reason I bring this up, today I had a very strange experience. First of all, we showed up early in the day. Senator Jim Banks puts this on because he's from that particular region. A large number of questions have been at the forefront of Americans' concerns over how we do certain military matters, both in our own military and then how that military acts abroad, and how the economy and the manufacturing industries play into that. A lot of questions, especially given what's gone on around the world in the last couple of years. And I had the opportunity today to ask the Secretary of the Navy, John Phelan, a little bit about some of the drone warfare and how the Navy and the military was actually preparing for it. I got a straight answer. And not only did I get a straight answer, I got a very descriptive I've never had that happen.
And you made it out alive.
Yeah. When you're asking a question kind of as a reporter, you usually expect to get beaten around the bush. You may even get beaten with the bush. But in this case, I got a straight answer. So first of all, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth made a couple of comments that were stellar. Of course, there's been a lot of controversy. People like Chris Murphy, like Cory Booker, like AOC, who have freaked out over the United States striking cartel narco-terrorist boats in the Gulf of America, in the Southern Caribbean. And Hegseth, said some pretty stellar stuff today.
We're also taking the fight on the deterrence front to cartels. My advice to foreign terrorist organizations: do not get in a boat. I mean, if you're trafficking drugs to poison the American people, and we know you're from a designated terrorist organization, you're a foreign terrorist and a trafficker, we will find you and we will kill you. No one is better. No one is better at tracking and networking and mapping and hunting than the American military. Honing those skills for many decades in foreign lands. Now we're doing it in defense of the American people with all the authorities. We got lawyers on lawyers. All the authorities necessary to do so, treating these terrorists like the Al-Qaeda of the Western Hemisphere.
Correct. So 2 key things. You don't really need me to tell them to you, but apparently there are those out there that do. That don't all have the common sense that a lot of the audience does here on the Tony Kinnett Cast audience. That would be number 1, the more lethal your military is and the more decisively they act, the fewer of your troops and your country's citizens get killed. the less collateral damage there is that harms your own people. By the United States choosing how to act and acting directly and acting lethally against a threat, it means that there's not a chance of somebody getting away or evading arrest or sneaking things around, and therefore that causes a greater, not just a sense, but a reality of security for the American people. Number two, the era of garbage woke crap that was focused on anything and everything but honoring our troops and protecting our country is over. This had a lot of people on the left steaming mad today. Don't care. Does not bother me in the slightest. Secretary Hegseth on the age of DEI finally coming to a close.
Putting America first, and the roadmap is peace through strength. The third ingredient President Trump has injected is good old-fashioned Indiana common sense. Common sense is back at the White House, and it's back at the Pentagon. Common sense means putting warfighting, lethality, as the senator mentioned, training, discipline, accountability, readiness at the forefront of everything we do at the Department of War. That means no more social justice, no more political correctness, no more toxic ideological garbage that infected the department. As I've said before, but we repeat and we repeat because as a good old television host, you know it takes a while for it to actually sink in. No more identity months, no more DEI offices, no more dudes in dresses. No more climate change.
All over with y'all. I was one of the people clapping.
It actually was a thing. No more climate change worship, no more division, no more delusions, gender delusions or quotas, no more distraction. As the chairman of the Joint Chiefs puts it, Pete, you're clearing out the debris. That's what it is. We're clearing out the debris from out.
Now, the reason he was so focused on this is he just got out of a committee in which there are two demographics now that make up the Democratic Party. One of those demographics is the young, super third world socialist upheaval group. Your Marxists and those who are saying we need to open our borders and bring in every single Somalian and Uzbekistani ant and Trinidadian golfer and whatever. So you have that crew. And then the other demographic in the Democratic Party now are just angry, bitter, single women. Like that's most of it. And that crew is still in Congress. And when Hegseth goes before Congress as the Secretary of War to give answers, you get exchanges like these right before he came out to this defense summit.
Because if it were, you would be keeping these women in. Instead, you are the one injecting culture wars into the military, and it's at the detriment of our military readiness and national security. Now, General Kane, I'd like to turn to you.
So to be clear, these are men who think they're women.
These are women. I'm happy to educate you on
but these are men,
on trans
and so
issues at another
what we've
time.
identified is that there's mental health issues with that belief system.
I'd like to turn to General
are
Kane
detrimental
now.
to readiness, and that's the determination that we've made and that we stand behind. Gender dysphoria.
And so you don't.
I mean, you can hear like the angry like clucking of the hen that's just frustrated that she can't lay eggs like the other chickens. But in this particular instance, Sarah Jacobs of California's 51st. I'm a big whoop-de-doo for the representative from San Diego who thinks that male genitalia belongs in a skirt. No, it's not. It's not, in fact, a priority of this military. This brings us over to the Secretary of the Navy. Now, when you go to an event like this, I'm going to be honest. The first thing that I asked the Banks team when I was sent the kind of press information, because I'm in Indiana, if there's an event in Fort Wayne, I get invited. Not exactly the most thrilling drive on Interstate I-69, but there was Aurora Borealis, and it was a really pretty drive north. So what I was told first is that Hegseth would be coming, and I said, cool, can I get an interview with Hegseth? And the answer to that is he's not giving interviews to anybody. And I said, okay, pretty please. And though I dressed up the please rather prettily, no, didn't get anything. Okay, so what do you do then? Well, they said you might actually get the chance to talk to the Secretary of the Navy. As a fan of West Point, all of my life, as Mike Pence's very last congressional appointment to West Point before he ran for governor, telling me I might have the opportunity to talk to the Secretary of the Navy is like saying that I've now had 9 visits to the dentist. My 10th one is free if I use it in a week. Woo! Now, all kidding aside, the Secretary of the Navy is an incredibly competent individual. John Phelan is a brilliant, brilliant analyst, and he is a masterful administrator. And we have never needed such an individual more than right now. Because right now, China has thrown all of their resources, into building additional military and civilian shipbuilding ports. They are building ships as fast as they can. Not just military, but commercial ships. The United States is reducing its number, or was reducing its number, of civilian and military shipbuilding ports. We're very, very behind on the building of nuclear submarines, on the building of carriers, on the building of missile destroyers and intercept craft, on the building of the Zumwalt, the kind of drone auxiliary assistance craft. It's a problem. And so the Secretary of the Navy got up and basically started answering questions Americans have had for a long time. And if you say, well, Tony, why do I care about what the Secretary of the Navy said? You will remember that during the Kamala Harris-Donald Trump debate, that he was asked about the Navy, and Donald Trump rattled off and said, the Chinese are building ships, lots of ships, tall ships, ships in bottles, relationships. I don't like it. We need to build more of every kind of ship. And Kamala Harris just started laughing and then hiccuped whatever Merlot she drank before she went on stage. The building of naval vessels has been a cornerstone of presidential policy since Thomas freaking Jefferson. That was his middle name, in case you were wondering. So why does this matter? For the first time, we have a man with some common sense answers when the military-industrial complex and these single provider companies, essentially, we're the only one that makes the super phalange screw. You have to buy them from us. They're $15,000 a pop. We make them for 38 cents. That kind of crap. Hegseth's Department of War is very much against it. And this is an excellent expression from the Secretary of the Navy, John Phelan, on why we're not doing this crap anymore.
You know, very early on, I said, I think in maybe my second or third speech, I said, we're in the business of warfare. And it created some kind of, some people thought, oh, this business guy. It is what we do. We are in the business of warfare. And I often ask in my meetings, when we're going through things about, oh, sir, it'll take us 6 years to design this, 10 years to build it. It'll take us 3 years to design this missile and 3 years to make it. What would we do if we were at war? And they're like, well, we would cut that in half and we would do things much faster. Why aren't we doing that? Like, that is our business. Why is our attitude not that because we are at war in our own way and we need to understand it.
So the comment that Hegseth had made before those that are really scared of the word war start going, oh, he said we're at war. I don't want to be at war. Not what he's talking about. Earlier in his speech, and also in Hegseth's speech, he pointed out a very classic Latin phrase: he who desires peace must prepare for war. It's the Teddy Roosevelt model. You speak softly, but carry a big stick. If you are not ready for war, another nation will usurp you. You have to be ready to use the force. Otherwise, no one's going to respect you on the world stage. I'm saying, well, but I don't like that. Tough. That's the way the world is. But I don't want us to get involved in other countries. Me neither. That's why we need a lethal military that doesn't draw 800 red lines that we let the other country walk all over and then send in the diplomatic corps because everyone's just a lovely person on the inside. And if we just show them freedom, then it'll all be wonderful. No, wrong, stupid. The military, the Army, the Marine Corps, the Air Force, the Navy, the Coast Guard, the Space Force must be lethal. They must be precise, and everything must be efficient. And the Secretary of the Navy is entirely correct there when he says, I'm going up to shipbuilders, I'm going up to missile designers and saying, how long is it going to take to get this new missile? Drone warfare is evolving very, very quickly. And they say, well, like 3 years to design it, and 1 year to talk to my ex-wife, and 3 years to get the materials, and 4 years to maybe build it, and then Obama EPA regulations, we got to redesign it because it's not a green missile, and then I got to stencil Taylor Swift's latest album art on it, and so 28 years, give or take. No, if we were at war and we needed to make them now, what would happen? Oh, we'd have it out to you in like 3 weeks. Well, then why aren't we doing that now? Making lots of things ends up lowering the cost. You guys know, like the Tomahawk missile is like, oh, very, very expensive. Millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars per missile. Well, it turns out that if you actually start cranking them out and you make a more efficient process, It's not as expensive as you thought. Now, the second thing that he got very, very, very correctly, again, this is the first time it's ever happened, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to be repeating myself. I'm not just trying to, kind of build, suspense here, but while the House is in their 15-minute vote, I have never gotten a straight answer to a question like this one. And if I may say so, the question that I asked, which is, hey, over in China, over in Ukraine, over in Russia, over in the Middle East with Iran, with Hamas, with Hezbollah, whomever, they are rapidly advancing drone technology. Rapidly. People are concerned about, what about suicide drones? Is this like a new age? Is America even ready to fight it? What do we do? I asked this question, and I am deeply impressed at the answer. So before we get around the book, here's how I asked the question, just transparently. There was a bit of futzing, but I did my best. Here you go.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Tony Kinnett, Daily Signal, and Hoosier Native. Just a quick question on China's rapid advancement in drone measures. The Navy has its work cut out for it, as does the Air Force, in developing rapid countermeasures for those. Also with the reports that China is deploying a lot of their potential suicide drone systems on those little coral reef points they call islands to expand their coastline. Does the administration, I know you earlier mentioned the undersecretary in respect to technological advancement, how much is the Navy focusing on deploying drone countermeasures on new ship builds and in our installations?
It's a fair question. And if I may toot my own horn for a second, here's why that matters. If we're taking 10 years to build a ship, and they're putting today's idea of drone countermeasures on them, anti-air in World War II was essentially just flat guns. Okay? If you put flat guns on missile defense systems on a naval cruiser in the Vietnam era, you're asking for trouble. Those systems cannot take down, or could not take down, rockets fired by MiGs, for example. So what do you have for this? If you're building the ships now, here was his answer.
Yeah, so, we, across the Navy, we had over 70 programs doing research, of which probably close to half were doing the same thing. And that is why we centralized the process. That's why I took one of our outstanding admirals, Admiral Seiko Okano, who's a 1-star, and brought her up to a 3-star to basically stand up this new group, to basically consolidate, organize our unmanned efforts, and make sure we were testing in real time.
He's now, by the way, completely disassembled one of the biggest arguments the left has, that the military is going to be super anti-woman under Hegseth. A 1-star admiral was promoted to a 3-star lieutenant general, or whatever the naval equivalent of a 3-star admiral is. I'm sorry, naval ranks aren't one of mine. But a 3-star promotes her to that position and says, your job is now to head up drone countermeasures for the U.S. Navy. Every waking minute of your day is going to be focused on this problem.
And adapting in real time. And we are trying out multiple programs right now, particularly in the Indo-Pacific, both defense, ISR, offense, across the board.
It's Vice Admiral, by the way. Thank you for that. Appreciate it, Producer Nick.
Making sure this integrates in with the systems will be one of the key facts that we need to get our arms around, because you can have all these systems, but if they can't communicate with one another, you're going to have a problem. So these are things that we are focusing on, and we thought by centralizing it, it would allow us to move quicker and faster. And I think one of the things that I'll be talking to the senator about and to the guys on the Hill.
He's referencing Senator Jim Banks, who's a member of the Senate Armed Forces Committee.
We cannot programmatically fund our unmanned efforts. If we do, then we will be building obsolete things.
Programmatically funding means this, that Congress has to go in and approve this new special prototype drone manufacturing thing, which is, again, going to take the 3 years of design, the 5 years of building, the 7 years of testing, the 8 years of famine, that kind of crap. By the time you get done, you're screwed.
The speed of iteration in unmanned is incredible, and it is happening very fast. So just to give you an example, in the Ukraine, if I had bought what they were using 6 months ago, it is 5 generations behind. So we can't programmatically fund this and say, this is it, this is what we're going to build. We have to build adaptability and iteration inside to that procurement cycle. And that's something that they did in the One Big Beautiful Bill, which we greatly appreciate, which allows us to get that sort of iteration. And hopefully we'll continue to do that. But it is a key point. I think unmanned has changed the nature of warfare. But also, look, you have to realize in the Indo-Pacific, you've got the tyranny of distance.
So he's answered again. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to glaze just the secretary or the Secretary of the Navy here and to say, oh, he's just wonderful, wonderful. I've never met the man. I've never talked to the man before this point. I have never had someone answer a question that I had as a journalist, just up front, point blank. Here you go. Here's the answer to the drone question. And then he wrapped it around back to China. In the Indo-Pacific, he says what people forget is that the Indo-Pacific is really freaking big.
Drones traveling very far with ordnance, that's a big challenge.
Because ordnance is heavy. People forget bombs, and the more computers you stuff into the bomb make it mucho heavy. And also that more course correction required means more fuel, means more electronics in the fins. It's a huge mess. Take it from someone who's probably messed around with drones more than is good for him. He's very much on point here.
And so understand that how they're used and how you defend against them is going to be a very big deal, but that integration will be the key to victory in my mind.
Really great stuff. Now, the House is in the middle of their 15-minute vote. Hakeem Jeffries is now done with his rant on the House shutdown bill. We do have that clip. Producer Nick, thanks for sharing it to me. Before we go over to Senator Jim Banks, I do want to play this of Hakeem.
Fight will end. Only two ways, Mr. Speaker, that this fight will end. Either Republicans finally decide to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits this year, or the American people will throw Republicans out of their jobs next year.
That's quite a claim. That is quite a claim he's making. So now we've gone from the fight is, well, we didn't really lose the fight, actually. Well, it's that Americans are going to get really mad in the elections next year because Obamacare is actually a Republican plan. Good luck with this one. I tell you what, William Shatner pretending to be Barack Obama is struggling at the podium.
And end the speakership of Donald J. Trump once and for all. That's how this fight ends.
There's like no applause.
During this painful Trump Republican shutdown, what we've seen,
someone's ChatGPT AI voice kicked in the background,
is two different philosophies in terms of how to govern for the American people. The Democratic Party philosophy is clear. We are ready, willing, and able to find bipartisan common ground. Anytime, any place, to enact spending agreements that actually make life better.
Anytime, any place. So when Representative Mike Lawler, again, I bring him up, it matters in this particular instance, goes to Hakeem's office and out in front of Hakeem Jeffries says, hey, I'm all kinds of ready to fund Obamacare. I'm a Republican from New York. A little moderate deal here for you. Don't just take it from me. Here's Mike Lawler.
The reason we know this is a Democratic shutdown is because of how angry they are that we're about to reopen the government, period. That's all you need to know. In 2023, Jerry Nadler said shutdown is really an extremist policy designed to appeal to an extremist base and hold the whole country hostage. That is exactly what the Democrats have done over the last 43 days. They have held the American people hostage, trying to extract insane things like free health care for illegal immigrants. If they were serious about tackling the health care affordability crisis in this country, then they would address the fundamental problem with Obamacare.
Yeah. Now, we do have to break away from this because an update on the House votes right now. We do have two Democrats who have broken away. You can see the crap-eating grin on my face. You already know where I'm going. Two House Democrats have broken away from the rest of the left in order to vote in favor of reopening the government and that continuing resolution, which also gives Republican senators extra authority to sue for Arctic frost and unlawful investigations. Adam Gray, Democrat of California, and Jared Golden, Democrat of Maine. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. I predicted that for you. And you. Yeah. You.
Three now, apparently.
Oh, 3 now. Okay, good. So the vote is progressing. We'll get through this as we move through the evening. I do want to go over, I did get the chance to interview Senator Jim Banks today, because I was told, you were told, we were all told, that when Trump appointed people to cabinet positions, that it was going to be this hectic disaster. And that, well, I mean, just think about what Donald Trump could do by appointing Egseth. I mean, he's a drunk and he's a terrible person, and he's just going to wreck the entire Secretary of War. The Department of Defense at the time. He hasn't done any of that. 4 Democrats have now split away. We're going to cut to Jim Banks. We'll get that interview out. Forgive me if it looks a little awkward. Packing my own kind of camera and getting something set up. We're still working on our on-site interview stuff, but it's a good interview when Senator Jim Banks on the Armed Service Committee has let's say, a bit of a talent for talking about this particular stuff. So over to Senator Jim Banks of Indiana.
Senator Jim Banks here with us at the great state of Indiana, 4th annual of the big defense meet conference. Hullabaloos. Tell us, what were you expecting out of this one?
Well, I started it 3 years ago when I was in the House. I served on the House Armed Services Committee, and I served this part of the state, Northeast Indiana, Fort Wayne. I grew up just down the road in a small town, 10,000 people, called Columbia City. I was the first member from this committee who ever served on the Armed Services Committee, because we don't have a big military base here, but we have a big industrial base. We make things in this part of the world, and a good example in my hometown, Ultra Electronics makes all the sonobuoys for the United States Navy. Here in Fort Wayne, L3 Harris makes the satellites that are going to build the Golden Dome. And you have companies like that all over this region. And then you have a lot of mom and pop tool shops that support these businesses. So we have a lot of jobs that are in national defense, and we want to grow that. We want the Pentagon to know that we're ready, willing, prepared to build the technologies and weapons of the future. And that's what this summit's all about. We have some major investors and innovators from Silicon Valley. We have the Secretary of War and the Secretary of the Navy both here today, and a lot of others that came from a long ways away to have this conversation about what Indiana already does and what we're going to do in the future.
With the last couple of years of warfare around the globe, obviously, as you know, things have evolved so rapidly. There's a lot of armchair generals out there on social media saying that the United States isn't ready or prepared for high-scale drone warfare, or how rapidly the Russians or the Chinese are advancing. And that's what I strolled up to ask SecNav about today. We played that clip on the show a little bit earlier. Do you see, I was really surprised to hear how ready he was to answer the question, but do you see the United States, from your time on Armed Services Committees, actually making sure that the nation is up to pace? Do you see the same lag that the shipbuilding situation had under the Biden administration, or are we maybe a little more on pace to fight this one?
I don't think most people can fully understand or appreciate how bad things were when Joe Biden was in office. And the Pentagon was focused on everything but war fighting. They were focused on abortion, travel mandates, and gender and racial quotas, and recruitment and wokeness in the military. I mean, that was the focus. So these guys, Hegseth and President Trump and all the Pentagon officials, they inherited a true mess. The recruitment was way down, the worst it had been in the 50 years of an all-volunteer force. They had to clean up a big mess. As Secretary Hegseth talked about what they've already achieved, and the focus on lethality. And a big part of focusing on lethality is building the weapons and investing in the technologies and preparing for what does a war with China look like? How do we win it? And ultimately, how do we deter it by having a stronger military and better technologies. That's what this summit's all about. Indiana is going to play a big role in all of that. And I'm very proud that I voted to confirm Pete Hegseth as Secretary of War, because what he's done in a short period of time proves that that was a good decision. President Trump made a good choice. These guys at the Pentagon are focused on the right things.
Well, this is one of the things that I talked to some of the other press about. Let me rephrase that. To some of the competent press about that are also here. Joy Pullman from The Federalist, of course, Wallace Wyatt over from the Daily Caller News Foundation. We were talking about the difference between, we want to ramp up production. Trump gets into office, we say, all right, let's kick it into full throttle. But there is just going kind of willy-nilly, just everything full, and there's doing things in a calculated manner, though it's full steam ahead. Since you've confirmed Hegseth, since you're on the Armed Services Committee, since you were in the House, have you seen that calculated effort, or has it been more of a charging full steam ahead situation?
It's night and day. I mean, I can't fully describe how bad it was under Biden and how much different and better it's been to work with Hegseth and his whole team at the Pentagon.
But I was told he's a drunk and he's a TV host. He's just going to go at it, and it's just going to be a lot of passion and no substance. You seen any of that come to fruition?
Secretary Hegseth was so substantive in his remarks here in Fort Wayne today, because he understands that this is the heartland, the manufacturing base. Many of the brave and patriotic men and women who serve in our military come from Indiana, patriotic places like Indiana. So Secretary Hegseth realizes that. Secretary of the Navy, John Phelan, spoke about the important role that Indiana, Crane, Naval Base.
The list of things that they went through.
That's right. There's a lot of substance there. And they understand that one of our biggest battles is against bureaucracy and old mindsets at the Pentagon. And if we're going to invest in these new technologies, it's going to take a different focus. And the focus can't be on wokeness and abortion and racial quotas and all of that garbage that happened under Biden. The focus needs to be on lethality. Right. And lethality means investing in better weapons and technologies. That's what Hegseth is doing.
I think so. Senator Banks, thank you very much, of course, for the conference, and then also what you're doing.
Thank you.
All right, let's dig in a little bit to some of these election results. The vote to reopen the government right now. As we talked about earlier, Adam Gray, Democrat of California, was the first Democrat to break away from the Hakeem Jeffries AOC super duper pooper scooper caucus and vote to reopen the government, followed by Jared Golden. Jared Golden, as I called, was the very first Democrat to break in Maine. And then Adam Gray of California. Third was Marie Perez, representative from Washington. Fourth was Democrat Representative Don Davis of North Carolina. Producer Nick, can you find out? There's one Republican, I think, so far that's voted against. So,
pull it up, Jamie.
The fifth Democrat voting to reopen the government against the caucus is Henry Cuellar of Texas. That's an interesting one, for sure. The sixth, okay, so now it's just the floodgates are open. This is going to pass with flying colors. Tom Suozzi of New York. Can we get some representatives with some normal names? I have had to pronounce every single form and language of last name this evening. My tongue hurts. It's like I've read Fox and Socks to my toddlers. 222 to 209, you say, is the current tally? From Reuters. Excellent stuff. Excellent. You say, Tony, why aren't you bringing us a feed right here, right now of what's on the floor? I don't have C-SPAN all set up to do that. I didn't think they were going to get to the vote for like another hour. The House is really on the ball. I thought Hakeem Jeffries would at least try to break some kind of magic miracle minute and go for at least a half an hour. He didn't do it.
We need to buy a CRTV and just have it on the background for C-SPAN right next to Corn Cob TV.
So it's interesting that you say that. We have actually talked about kind of redoing some of the stuff in studio. And one of those things is, on a nights like this, actually getting a panel of some of the news coverages behind us. Two Republicans who have so far voted against the government reopening are Representative Thomas Massey and then Representative Greg Stube of, I believe, Sarasota, wouldn't it? Yeah, that'd be representative of Florida's 17th. I think that's where Sarasota, Florida's congressional district is. All right, that brings us over to a little bit of ending show stuff. I mean, that's enough votes that the government's back open. Yippee. I know.
I'm just upset that Hakeem didn't do any lap dances like I was heard he was going to do with his Magic Minute, his Magic Mike Minute.
I'm upset that you're bringing that back up. So from all of us over here at the Tony Kinnett cast, we had some good times in this government shutdown. Some really special moments. And even though now we go on to greener pastures, different government fights, we can remember some of the good times.
Because the Supreme Court has paved the way for half the stuff that we see that's going on. Listen, Donald Trump is a piece of shit. Okay, we know that. Yes, he is.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss the random shutdown town hall rallies. I really am. I think more than anything, though, I'm gonna miss Peter Welch, Democrat of Vermont, getting up on the Senate floor in front of God and everyone, and just admitting that Obamacare is a piece of trash, has been a piece of trash, will forever be a piece of trash, and everyone who voted for it was lying to you, and everyone who crafted it was lying to you. Incredible stuff. It's just a beautiful time. It's a beautiful time to be in politics. All right, now a couple of things to address over in kind of the other side of the show things. I have a couple of bonus tonus things to get to exactly 84 minutes late. I figured, why not here at the end of things? One of these, I actually don't know what I've put up for the very first bonus tonus. What video clip do I have set up for the first bonus tonus?
Now, here comes President Trump threatening
Brian Stelter is very, very mad. Why is Brian Stelter very, very mad? He's very, very mad because Donald Trump has threatened to sue the BBC for maliciously editing the January 6th rally footage. No journalist that I've seen, if you want to call it journalist, broadcaster, anchor, potato, whatever you want to call Brian, I've never seen someone crash out as much on this issue as Brian Stelter has. This is incredible. I do want to share this with y'all.
Here comes President Trump threatening a lawsuit. And to a lot of people, this looks like an attempt at a shakedown. We've seen him settle with other media companies. Is that what he's trying to do at the BBC? We don't know. But he's claiming he's been really severely harmed, even though, again, nobody noticed this editing problem last year when the documentary actually aired.
So first of all, that's not a standard. Nobody noticed is not a standard. That just means no one was watching the bleeping BBC documentary. I'm not exactly, oh man, I can't wait to hear what some Brit says about January 6th, a week before the 2024 elections.
Maybe because documentaries are implicitly trusted and why this is so egregious.
Also, just on that general line of things, Americans by polling data did not care at all about January 6th by the time this election rolled around. They didn't care during the primary. They didn't care during the general. It didn't work. Democracy is going to die and everyone's going to be in birthing pains for eternity. No. And the last thing that I wanted to mention, Peyton Walter, who gave us a very generous donation previously, had an issue with one of my impressions. One of the impressions that I had tried to attempt back in, I believe I was in Florida at the time, was to make fun of Matt Damon. Matt Damon in the Team America movie, was that a Comedy Central or an Adult Swim production? It would be Comedy Central, I think. They were making fun of Matt Damon. And every time that he came on screen, he would always say like, Matt Damon. And so this would be the particular thing that Peyton Walter was referencing.
Matt Damon. Matt Damon. Matt Damon. Matt Damon. Matt Damon.
So I have worked on it a little bit. Matt Damon, as close as I can get. So a very nice $100 super chat again.
That's
You guys,
much better. You didn't get a coach for it, but you worked on it.
I did. I worked on it every day, every morning. I woke up and I practiced my Matt Damon impression as good as I could.
It wasn't Comedy Central, but it was produced by Trey Park, who is closely affiliated with Comedy Central through South Park.
I'll take it. 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3. So that said, we have got a lot more to cover, and it's just going to have to come tomorrow because it's 8:30. I have to get a lot of other bits of this show uploaded to some of our affiliate radio stations. Been out on the road doing the Defense Summit today. And so thanks for tuning in to what kind of became an accidental impromptu vote coverage. Wasn't expecting to go into that. Thanks to George Caldwell from the Daily Signal for chiming on and dealing with tech issues. Thanks to you over on the live stream chat for joining us. Really appreciate it, whether you're on YouTube or Rumble. Just thrilled to get to watch Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, and Hagerty, Blackburn, all the other senators just kneecap former FBI officials in Arctic frost. It's going to be a great end of the week. Be careful what you wish for when it comes to those Epstein emails. I'm Tony Kinnett. This has been the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated and first on 93 WIBC. Take care.